Okay, welcome to the current any percent zipless world record for Prince of Persia: The Two Thrones. So I got this run the other day. I decided to do some post commentary for it. Mainly because, well, doing this post commentary stuff is kind of fun. And also there's been new glitches found, or one new glitch specifically found in the trilogy. And also just new strats and stuff in the whole run, so I figured it'd be nice to have a commentated run like this to answer any questions. So the category itself we call Zipless because there's a glitch in this game that you can perform by overloading the rewind system. When you get the recall ability after this split, the dagger split, you can like spam inputs and then rewind actions and boost across the map, and it ignores collision, and it's great fun, really fast. You can complete the game in under an hour, but it overshadows a lot of other glitches that are also really cool. So we have this other category called Zipless, where you can do anything else except for that glitch. So here's just movement. That jump skips a fountain cutscene. We're gonna wall run here. Nice convenient wall the developers put there for us. They put a fence there to try and stop you from wall running over there and skipping this section, but if you sort of line up correctly and delay your wall runs, you can still get on it. So that skips getting the first dagger, first weapon of the game, called the fish cutter. So we do most of this segment without a weapon. I hope you like the music, by the way. I muted the audio from the video itself, and I just put random Two Thrones and other, I think it's just a mix of all the trilogy music. So you might have saw this attack a little bit earlier. We call it a safety fall because of this reason. You can use it to fall from much higher heights without dying. You would normally die from that fall for sure, but that attack, for whatever reason, it like lowers where the fall damage starts counting, so you can fall from higher heights. There's a more powerful glitch that allows you to fall from even higher heights that we'll be using later in the run. Talk about that more when we get there. And one thing to mention, you might know this other glitch that can be used called the AI glitch, where you can actually sort of break the enemy AI, at least any enemy that you can stealth kill or speed kill. And it's really useful because the enemies will just ignore you, and especially the archers, you can just go right past them. You don't have to worry about them shooting you. But it doesn't save that much time because it wastes quite a bit to actually get, and then we need to lose it at some point in the run anyway. So yeah, but the strats for the archers are pretty solid. The most inconsistent ones are in this split, I would say. Even with, like, you could use that glitch called drop glitching if you got the fish cutter weapon, which you would get if you did the AI glitch. But there aren't that many places to use a drop glitch in this segment. There's a couple, but the biggest one you can just do a safety fall anyway, so it doesn't make up for the time it takes to watch the cutscene to get the dagger. But anyway, off we go. Another archer here. You can jump pretty much anywhere down there. It doesn't have to be on that platform I landed on. Although that possibly might be a little faster because I ended up higher on the ladder. Yeah, but personally I find doing this segment without the fish gutter is much easier, nicer, because you can sort of ignore the enemy auto-targeting system that it has. Like some of the corners I'm cutting with these rolls, if you try to do that with the fish gutter, you'll do like a vault off the wall almost every time. Or you could just randomly get targeted onto the enemy and vault over the enemy. It's kind of a nuisance. Boring platforming here. There's a skip coming up here that doesn't look like much, but it saves like 9 seconds, so it's quite a lot for just this segment where we can't really do any glitches. It was that jump right there, that diagonal jump to the beam. So because I skipped the fish cutter earlier on, I can't continue for a couple of reasons. The main one is the game will crash, so I need to activate a checkpoint there, death abuse, and then we have the dagger that we skipped. The game just gives it to us. This is one of the most inconsistent archer sections. Cause runners a lot of grief, but I find this side roll strat is the best. You take that specific path, the archers miss, you stagger on the wall like that, that also causes them to miss, and then you can jump to that platform early. Another safety fall here. There's a ridiculous jump you could do there. If you jump near to one of those columns, it I don't really understand why it works, but it sort of tricks the game and it doesn't kill you from fall damage. You can just land completely safe. And you can also grab onto the pole if you get it perfectly, but it's really hard to line up. This is a unique use of a safety fall. Because of the archer there, it sort of auto targets and you can grab on to that railing. Pretty cool skip. I got up here well below sub 7, which is really good. Anything below 7, sub 7 is on track for a decent dagger time. Yeah, I mentioned the game would crash. If you use any of those dagger panels without a weapon, then the game just crashes. And there's also, I think if you try and get to the end of this game with no weapon, the game doesn't give you the recall ability. I haven't tested that myself, but I've heard of that. So that might be another reason why you have to death abuse for the fish cutter. But even ignoring that, there's spots where we have to use a dagger panel, so can't really avoid it without hacks. We're just jumping there to time these trap cycles, do a wall run to get a secondary that I actually missed. I did backtrack, wasting a bit of time there. And there's actually a little cutscene skip there, goes by really quickly, but all you do is just re-grab that pole during the cutscene, and it stops the cutscene from playing for whatever reason. It's the only spot in the game that does that, to my knowledge. This is the throne room, and there's actually 3 ways to skip it, but they are all too inconsistent to go for it. So we just go through casually, ignoring the archers, which is a little risky because there is a chance they can kill me when I'm trying to get past this part right here. But doing that, follow that pattern, they usually don't bother you. And then we just go side rolls to the finish. Which I didn't mention, but side rolls is the fastest way to move on level ground. I'll talk about movement more when I'm side rolling down to the sewer cutscene, because that's a long movement area. Now we can rewind time, which will allow for some really cool glitches, but not yet. We still have to wait. 841 dagger split is really good, by the way. The best I've ever gotten is an 838. This area is kind of boring. I don't really like this area. I wish we could skip it in Zipless. You can skip this whole area by using the glitch zipping, but we obviously can't do that here. I've tried other ways to get down to where you would do the skip, but unfortunately nothing really works. Took some damage there by the traps, but taking damage doesn't really matter right now. It does matter later, actually, but when we turn into the Dark Prince, we get a full heal anyway. Couple more platforming. I'll do the first instance of a drop glitch coming up here, which is just throwing your secondary weapon. You need a secondary to do it. That's why I picked one up. You just throw your secondary as you're falling off of something, and you can negate fall damage as long as you're throwing your weapon. The game won't consider you falling until you let go of that throw animation, which lasts pretty long, but it doesn't last forever. You can't just drop glitch like as long as you want. There is a limit to it. I died here, which is pretty cool, but we can rewind time. Which is just a game mechanic, it's not a glitch. So here I'm gonna do some funky stuff. I'll talk about this later too, because I feel like this one just goes by so fast it doesn't really make any sense. I just kind of use it and then throw it away. But you'll be seeing that menu throughout most of the run. I want to focus more on movement at the beginning part of the run here. So yeah, speaking of movement, so the fastest way to move is to do these side rolls where you can actually buffer them. You can start doing the second roll before the first one is finished, which buffers the next one, and you can just keep chaining this in a rhythm. And it's really fast. Going downhill is the same speed, so doing it across there doesn't really save that much time because you're going downhill most of the time anyway. But on level ground, or if you're going uphill especially, it's way faster, or through water. If you can't do side rolls, because they take some time to set up, so if it takes too long to set them up, then your next best bet is to chain regular rolls, which can be done in the same manner of side rolls. It's just in a rhythm. It's just a different rhythm than side rolls, the slower rhythm, which is only slightly faster than walking normal with your weapons put away. If your weapons are taken out, then you definitely want to roll no matter what, even if you're not chaining them. That's pretty much the gist of movement. Wall running is also decently fast, depending on the layout of the area. I might do a wall run. I actually do in here. There's a wall. We need to get on this pole. So just kind of get away from the water and then wall run over to the pole. Alright, so this glitch here is a variation of a wall run extend. I think I messed it up. Yeah, that happened. Still kind of worked, but then I died, which is really dumb. But it happens. I wall run too much the second time, which got me killed. So I think the next time I get the glitch, that way of getting it is really strange. Usually you get it in this manner, like that. It's a variation of what we call a wall run extend. That's all you're doing, you're just extending the wall run. But because of the weird collision with the pole, it ends up teleporting you across the gap for whatever reason. It's useful, it's faster, so yeah. You might notice I skipped one of the swinging poles there with a tricky jump. That actually doesn't save any time because of a cycle that starts when you fall down that shaft. But it's still fun to go for because there's no reason not to, really. Gives you more time for mistakes later too, I guess. But yeah, this panel right here, I would need to wait on this anyway if I didn't get the skip, so it doesn't actually save any time. I tried ways of making that early cycle. There is a way to make it, but you need 2 sand, and you don't have time to pick up 2 to do the early cycle, so you can't really do it unless you saved 2 sands from earlier, but then you're not going to be able to do the skips that I did earlier, so it just doesn't really work out. And the trick to make the early cycle is frame perfect and inconsistent, so it's not really worth going for. Yeah, this is the Dark Prince. He's the prince's alter ego, I guess. It's like the infection from the sands that he got, if you don't know the lore of the game. But it's pretty irrelevant, because we're going to be skipping most of the Dark Prince sections. Some of them we can't skip, like this one. I think this is one of the longest that we do in this run. There is some cool movement with them though, like right here. I need to get sand because I'm going to die before I get to the water, which turns you back into the regular prince. So we can destroy that furniture earlier on, and it times it so that when you get there, you just get the sands as you're moving and you don't die. You just fall there. You would normally die from falling there, but that cutscene saves you from dying, so you don't need to jump and slide down. Alright, so I guess I'll get into the menu glitch now, because I'll be using a pretty big instance of it coming up soon. So all the menu glitch is of itself is just you can you open the menu and then you close it and then you double tap so you open and close it quickly, and it for whatever reason causes the game to overlay the pause menu on top of your gameplay. Like, it gives you control during the menu sort of, and it takes away the sand fog that's there, which is good, because if that was there and we had to play with that open, that would be really annoying. It's a little annoying to play with the menu itself open, because you can't use the mouse, so you have to bind all of your usual stuff that you would do on the mouse to the keyboard. But it's not a huge deal, you can get used to it pretty quickly. That area right there is one of the few instances where if I did the AI glitch, I could have just ignored them and it would be faster. But it's not fast enough to warrant doing it. Yeah, so using the menu glitch, there's a specific number of animations that will get messed up with it. Best way I can put it. One of them is a wall run flip like this. If I hit quit to main menu during that animation, give it some wait time, and then buffer a rewind as I press no to get back into the gameplay, and you just rewind for as little time as possible and then let go, then you get that height boost, and that allows us to get up top of that roof. We can use drop glitches to get back down, which skips a really long cutscene. And it's really nice because that cutscene is really, really long. And you saw this variation of the menu glitch earlier, using a jump. We have enter bound to jump as well, so you can just quickly tap enter and you get that first frame jump pause that consistently gives you the highest height using the menu. Getting a hit here is on purpose because you don't need to pull that switch all the way. You'll see later the door is only half, like it's only open a little bit, but it's enough to get under it, so it's fine. Now a little jump boost, you'll see those all the time. The sword, by the way, I forgot to mention this, but that sword that we picked up regenerates our sand, so I don't need to collect sand throughout the run, because that sword just regenerates them at a really fast rate, so really good. And the gate that we took also gave us a 4th sand tank, which is not technically necessary, but it doesn't take much time to get, and it's nice to have 4, because having 4 sand, you combine with the regeneration of the sword, you basically never run out of sands. If you had 3, you would run out at certain points and have to wait a bit. So it probably is overall faster to get the gate. This is Chariot number 1. There's 2 of them. It's essentially an auto-scroller. There's a little trick you can do on this one to save like a second, but I hardly ever go for it unless it's like a marathon or a showcase setting, because it's really funny looking to do. You would go on that right path and then do what we call a rewind trick, which is rewinding twice to the same frame, and it would skip that little slow-mo section. But again, it only saves like a second. And there we go. First auto-scroller done. My time kind of went up and down here in the splits. It's not the best start, you can definitely do way better, but overall it was a decent run, and I don't plan on doing another one for a while. That's why I decided to do this commentary. Another reason why I decided to do it. But as you can see from my sum of best, the final time is a 124, but my sum of best is a 121, so there's much more room for improvement. Yeah, I literally didn't even notice, but the menu is still open. I'm just so used to it now, I kind of don't notice it. But yeah, I just leave the menu open because I'm going to use it again shortly. And all of this platforming is not too difficult with just the keyboard. I use the arrow keys to turn the camera around. And it's a little finicky, but you deal with it. The only time that I get rid of the menu now is if I need to do tricky platforming, or if I need to death abuse. I need to get rid of it because you'll soft lock if you die with the menu open like this. So this is the used. This is another animation that gets boosted. You jump off something and then do your pause and buffer or rewind. It goes a little bit further than it normally would, which is just enough distance to reach that plank. And once we get the slow-mo ability, these glitches will become much more violent, you could say, and also much more fun. Currently, they only give very small boosts, but for some reason, I don't think anyone knows why, but if you combine it with slow-mo, you get a much bigger boost. We'll see that later. We don't get that power until after the first boss, though. Another Dark Prince section. This is probably the shortest one in the whole game. I also mentioned that the first boss that we're coming up on, called Klumpa, there is a skip that you could do that I might look into in the future if I go back to running this, but it's pretty hard. but it would save. I think it can save upwards of a minute. And what you would do for it is actually skip turning back into the regular prince here, so you would stay the dark prince and continue on to the boss like that. But again, I'm not doing it in this run. It's really difficult. Cutscene here. Unfortunately, we can't skip it. I've tried many ways to skip this cutscene. Unfortunately, nothing really works. I have a theoretical way to skip it, but it involves making one of those jump panels do a glitchy thing that's like seemingly random. There are certain panels in the game that always do it if you jump at the right time off them, but that one doesn't. Have had it happen where it jumps at the right angle, but I don't know how to force it to do it if there is a way. More archer strats here. These guys usually hit you like once or twice. Same with the guys down here. That safety fall to the chain actually causes this weird glitch. By jumping next to the wall there instead of the plank that you would normally jump to, it gets rid of it. It would happen on this dagger panel, and it would actually waste time. So I do that movement on purpose, where I hit the wall and fall down to get rid of the glitch that's caused by safety falling to a chain. And now here's Klumpa. So we're going to use another instance of the menu. These are like the sort of teleports, we call them, even though they're not technically teleports, but we just call them that because they look like that. So you can, the biggest one is obtained by doing a wall run. And it sort of just teleports you back, and that skips, it skips every trigger, like it skips cutscene triggers, load triggers, anything, but it doesn't ignore collision, so you can't like clip through a wall. Usually you can't clip through a wall. It's confusing, I know, but yeah, if it's like a solid wall, you can't get past it by just like wall running. But it's still very useful because there's a lot of cutscenes we can skip by doing that. Yeah, this is the boss that you can skip, but it's incredibly difficult. Mainly because like you need to do one of those wall run flips that I did earlier to gain height. That's the hardest part of it. There's other hard parts, but that's the hardest. And the timing for it is very strict. It wouldn't surprise me if it's 1, maybe 2 frames that you do, and it's also like position based, so yeah. This fight wasn't the best. I sort of messed up. I missed him when I did that double block roll to try and hit him, but I didn't die, so good enough. This is like the last Dark Prince section, I believe. After this, when we get the Sandgate sword, we're gonna keep it. This area actually has some pretty cool movement with the Dark Prince though. Doing all these chain swings as early as possible. And you want to make this trap cycle, which is pretty easy to make, but if you're not careful, the traps can sort of kill you earlier on. Now, I get sand here. I don't need the health. I could make it without it, but I get it because I want to attempt a cutscene skip coming up here, which is fairly new, and it's still very inconsistent. But it saves a minute, so I always go for it. I don't get it, unfortunately. It's kind of sad because it saves so much time. But it's just another wall run teleport that I did earlier. But since we can't ignore collision with it, we need to do it in a spot where it would teleport us and not hit anything else along the way. So the only thing is this little pole. You need to kind of do a wall run like that and time it. There's only like a couple frames that it'll work. And then sometimes it doesn't even work. Like that frame looked like it would work. And same with this one, but it doesn't. Kind of sucks. On the last attempt there, I tried to angle myself. I hit an earlier frame that wouldn't work at all. It sucks. Really depressed about that every time I do a run. If we got it, it would skip right past this cutscene, saving around a minute. Fortunately, my early game wasn't the best, but I feel like my late game was very good, which is why this ended up being an okay time. Another nice thing about if you got that cutscene skip, these two enemies here wouldn't be there. But they are here, so we gotta have to deal with them. They're usually not a problem, but yeah. I kill that archer specifically because there's a chance he'll shoot you as you cross these dagger panels. So it's much safer to just kill him. It's harder to do a drop glitch when there's an enemy near you. That's why I'm sort of walking away from it. Usually you can get it really consistently by just hanging off a ledge, climbing up, and then doing it quickly. But when there's an enemy around, it doesn't work the same. So here's the sword. We're going to get this sand gate sword back to regenerate sand. And then we grab this sand gate. You could skip it by doing a rewind trick, but it's the slow-mo ability, which will save way more time than it takes to obtain, so we definitely want to get that. Okay, so this is where the run gets cool, in my opinion. Now that we have the slow-mo ability. Those little wimpy boosts we were doing are now big manly boosts. We'll see coming up here. So I slow-mo before I pause, and then do the boost, and it gets much larger than before. And depending on when you time the pause, you'll get different distances. And on that second one, you actually need to time it later. If you time it too early, you'll just fly right off and die. Yeah, I use this dagger panel just to do another quick teleport, just like slightly faster. And this was dumb. I don't know why the game decided to do that, but whatever. Usually the strat for this is to wait for them to fall down. I get close and I just block and then do a secondary counter hit, and it hits both of them and kills them right away. It's really nice and quick. Because I grabbed onto that railing, they weren't grouped up in the same way, so I didn't hit the second guy with both attacks, so it took a little longer. Yeah, that's how you can usually set up a drop glitch, just by hanging off. But if there's an enemy around, it doesn't work the same. Style, you might think like you could do a jump boost up to that platform, but it's just faster to do the so-called no major glitches style of it. It's another category in this game. I'll probably mention that again. NMG is the acronym we use. And that was scary right there. I almost did a moonwalk into the cutscene. But luckily I didn't go far enough to hit it, so I inched close to the cutscene there because there's a load trigger and a cutscene stacked together. And like I said earlier, doing a teleport like that skips any type of trigger, so if I didn't walk close to the cutscene, then this area behind the door would just be black and I couldn't continue. After I pull the switch, you'll see it. So you have to kind of get dangerously close to the cutscene and then do the teleport. So it skips the cutscene but not the load trigger. So that area there would be black if I didn't do that setup. There's a bunch of really slow climbing through this area here, but we can just boost right across it. Really nice. That's a unique thing. I've never seen that happen. Actually, I got like the perfect timing to actually land on the plank and did buffered an attack. That's the first time I saw that happen. So we can do, this is the first time I believe, we do the same mechanic. I activated slow-mo and did the same boost with a jump, and it does the same thing as it does for this type of boost. It just amplifies it. Okay, so right behind me is a cutscene and a door that we want to go through, but that's slow. We have to like complete a big puzzle to do that. So instead, we're just gonna vault over this fence and keep rewinding and see if anything strange happens. You might notice something strange is happening. We'll just keep doing it a bit longer. Okay, there we go. Cool. On a more serious note, that glitch is called quicksand. You can get it with two animations. One is vaulting over the fence, like I did there, which is much faster than the other one. The other one is just jumping. It's kind of funny. It's like, how did this get past the QA testers? Like, if you just jump and rewind, you sink into the floor. So if you do it with a fence, like I did earlier, you need to do it 7 times to get low enough to go under doors and under certain cutscenes, but not all cutscenes can be skipped like that. There's only certain ones in the game. Some can be skipped by, or actually I think just one can be skipped with only 2 ledge quicksands. But when doing it with jumps like this, you need 21. So that's why this is taking much longer. And you're probably noticing I'm not running out of sand. That's because I'm timing the jumps in line with the regeneration of the sword. So I kind of, every time I use a sand, I rewind back to when the game was refunding, or like giving me an extra sand. So I kind of refund it every time. And you could do the same thing with the ledge version, but I'm bad at it. I don't know why. I just can't get the timing down. So I got a couple dupes, I believe, when I was doing it, but I didn't get enough so that I didn't have to, I had to wait for more. So that's a wall run extend, which I mentioned earlier. That's the usual version of a wall run extend, where you're literally just extending a wall run. Depending on what collision is there, you might get some weird teleports like I did in the sewer area. This was a mistake. I didn't line up properly, and so I missed. When you do a jump like this, you need something to either like grab onto like that, or to use your dagger, like a dagger panel. So because I was like a little too far back, I just boosted right above it and missed the platform. So I had to wall run back there to hit a load trigger. If you see any strange movement where I'm just like going somewhere and rewinding, it's probably a load trigger. Yeah, if I didn't do that, then this area here would not be loaded in, because like you can't get here without hitting that spot in the game, right? So small optimization with this water here. That since I don't have full health, I would normally drink from the water if I pressed R to block to do my jump. But by doing a jump and then blocking, it skips. It like prevents the prince from trying to drink, and you just do a block instead. And it doesn't like really waste any time to do, because when you activate slow-mo to do a boost, you need to wait a little bit. If you activate slow-mo and like jump immediately, it probably won't work. So it sort of times itself perfectly. You can just jump, activate slow-mo, and then by the time you're blocking, you're ready to do the jump boost. And you also probably notice that I'm waiting in the menu every time I pause. You can be pretty risky with the wait time, but the game can sort of decide to rewind longer than you want it to, and if it does that, then it'll like make the boost not work, which is really annoying. So we wait like, I think I wait like roughly like 1.5 seconds. And during this portion of the run, since I have the sword, I can be like more risky with my wait times, because if it ends up screwing it up, then like okay, I can rewind, try again. I just on average it won't screw up, so I can be more risky with it. But later on, when we don't have essentially infinite sands, I'm much more careful with it. Oh yes, I got the moonwalk in this run. that little trick. That's the thing I did that almost made me hit the cutscene earlier. All it is like if you're just walking and then like quickly tap the opposite direction, the prince will like do that slide. It's just like a funny animation there. It's actually nice movement for that, because it makes the camera face towards the door, and so it's just easier to like move in that direction after the cutscene of the door opening. Obviously it's not necessary, nor really saves any time, but it's fun to go for. That hallway has cool movement. There's so many little things in this game that I could talk about, but there's not enough time to fit them in, because there's bigger things I need to talk about, like the trick coming up here called cutscene drop, which I don't actually remember if I got. So let's just see if I get it. I'll just let you see it. I dropped too early there. I think I got it. I don't remember though. Yes, I did. Okay. Yeah, I pressed the drop button off of that ledge the same frame that I entered the cutscene, and it just like drops you down during the cutscene and negates fall damage. If I missed it, it's not like that big of a deal. There's a little boost you can do for a backup, but it's a little slower. Okay, so this is probably one of the hardest trick, if not like one of the hardest tricks, if not the hardest trick in the run. This boost is relatively easy, although it is tighter than most boosts in the game. But the hard part comes here. We want to go down to this platform, but it's too far down. It'll kill us if we just try to like roll there. And it's also like not lined up to drop glitch down there. So what we need to do is do a safety fall off of this like corner collision, and then we can rewind trick it like so to survive the fall. And I feel like I made it look really easy there, but it's kind of hard if you're first trying to do it, especially. It can be really difficult. Rewind tricks in general are difficult, but yeah. So I said that was the hardest trick. If that's the hardest trick, then this is definitely the most inconsistent trick. This trick isn't really hard, but it just fails sometimes, and we don't really know why. I think it's because, like, it's just, like, I don't think there's actual RNG in it, but it's just so precise that it's essentially RNG. And I get it first try there, which is really nice. It's really quick. I believe it works, like, there is collision behind you, but I believe it works because there's a little hole. So if you, like, line up the teleport just right, you can teleport right through that hole, and then the collision pushes you to the right and you grab the ledge. That's just like me guessing how it works. I don't think anyone really understands why exactly, but it skips turning into the Dark Prince, which is good because we want to keep the Sandgate sword, and obviously watching the cutscenes of turning in and out of the Dark Prince is slow. Nice view of a load trigger there, or the area getting deloaded. You get that just by rolling right before that small cutscene. More archers here, but we have slow-mo now, so archers aren't really a big problem. Slow-mo powerful enough to pretty much avoid any enemy that you want, although I do mess up some movement here. I'm trying to destroy this furniture, and I get hit because of that. Yeah, I want to do a boost in this corner to avoid a cutscene. You can get right over that railing, and it just gets you enough height to fly right above the cutscene, which is not usually something you can do actually, because cutscenes usually extend like all the way up to a roof or something, but that one specifically stops at the railing, so if you just boost high enough, you just fly right over it. So there's a door here. It's normally opened when you beat the boss of this area, which we're skipping, by the way. Probably should mention. There's usually a boss here. I did a teleport for falling down here to despawn the boss, which you don't actually need to do, but it's much safer, and it's really quick to do, so you might as well just do it. Because if you take damage while doing this quicksand, it usually takes you out of it. Also, if you just do a regular jump without rewinding, you'll get out of it. Or if you slash your sword, you'll get out of it. Or blocking and anything like that. Anything with your weapons, really. And sometimes the collision of the actual floor can just pop you out of it too. It's kind of annoying. It's a very, like, delicate state of the game to be in quicksand. See, when I'm in quicksand, I never like do optimal movement, I guess. I always like do very safe movement. Another boost here. If you time this boost perfectly, you can fly right over that plank, which saves a bit of time. I like to call it plank skip or beam skip, but I didn't get it there. So most of the boosts in this game are very lenient. Like, there's a huge window of time that you can pause the game and still get it. This one, however, is not like that. This one is pretty precise. That's why I sort of have a setup. I go to the top, go down a couple taps on the keyboard, and then do it. And luckily I got it first try. That boost can definitely bleed time on you if you don't get it the first time. There's essentially like 3 timings that you can do for boosts. An early timing, like a middle timing, sort of say, and a late timing. The early timing gives you like a higher initial height, but then a lower final height, if that makes sense. And then medium is just like the regular, and then a late one is if you need to go lower in your boost, because if you hit an earlier frame, then you'll just die. And this is very unfortunate. I don't really know why that, even seeing the recording here, I don't understand why that happened. I guess I was just in the wrong, I was too close when I tried to turn around. I would have did a roll teleport, which is exactly the same as a wall run, except it doesn't go as far. But it would have worked there because the cutscene doesn't extend to the left around the corner. So you can just angle the camera and then do a little roll teleport and get past it, but very unfortunate that I hit that. That's probably the biggest mistake of the run. And you could also say the skip before slow-mo, that's really hard, is the biggest mistake, but I consider that bigger because that one is so easily skippable that accidentally watching it is just an easy free time save that's in this run. We're going to give another shout out to NMG here. There's that box behind all the furniture items there that you're normally supposed to use to get up here, but you can just sort of bounce between those things there and get up there. Kind of funny. You could also use a jump boost, of course, but I believe I timed it and that was slightly faster, so. Our boost in here. This is the Garden 2 area, we call it. It's a pretty standard way of doing it for like all this is just like NMG movement, except for that boost I did at the start, but every category except for zipping. Obviously if you're doing the 90% normal, you just zip through all this. There's a little optimization there where I can just, instead of, normally you could just get to the platform that was on the right of that technically out of bounds collision I was on, I guess, and then drop glitch down, but if you time it right, you can just drop glitch right off of that archway that I landed on. I did a boost there to hit a load trigger again, and then I just rewind right back to go over here, run up the wall to hit another load trigger, and then we're good to trigger the golem. A lot of triggers in this game. There's probably more that I forgot to mention, but again, just keep in mind, if you ever see me doing some weird thing and rewinding, it's probably to hit a load trigger. So this is Golem. You could like skip this Golem and like side roll through all this, but obviously it's much slower, so we just take the Golem. And I'm hitting the sides here on purpose because if you do this area perfectly, the golem like slows down for some reason. It's really stupid. So thanks to Ubisoft for that. This boost here I find is really cool. There is a faster strat actually, but this is the most consistent way to do it. Yeah, and the other strat only saves like a couple seconds. But yeah, you can like boost and then bash your head on that collision and it flies you over to that section where you need to go to. And here, I'll do one of those roll teleports that I mentioned that I failed earlier. If you line up just at the bottom of these stairs, and then I do a roll and immediately pause, and then you can just teleport right across the cutscene. And I make sure I had the low trigger hit, and then I can continue on. I'm getting rid of the menu here because I need to do a trick called ledge storage, and this is the new glitch that was found in the trilogy. It's pretty hype. There's a use for it in every Zipless run in the trilogy now, which is really cool. Yeah, what I'm trying to do is get hit. I sort of got it there, but I wasn't confident that it worked. So I did it again, and that time I was sure it worked. So I vaulted up on the ledge and got interrupted with the enemy attacking me. And what that does is it stores the location of the ledge. And the next time I automatically walk up onto something, it'll try and teleport me back to where that was. It kind of makes no sense, but it should come a bit more clear once I actually release the storage. Yeah, and also if you vault over a fence just by walking towards it, like vaulting over a fence like this doesn't get rid of it. Like if I boost to it or if I wall run to it and then climb over it, it doesn't get rid of it. But if I just walk up to a fence and vault over it, then it doesn't teleport you, but it does get rid of the storage. So I jump to that instead of just climbing up it automatically, so I don't release the storage. And then I use it here to get one vault of quicksand. But unfortunately, I did that jump, and that actually ruined what I was trying to do in the first place. If I didn't do that jump, these traps wouldn't be activated, which is safer and faster. But I had to just deal with the traps, which is not too big of a deal. But it did make me kind of nervous, because if you climb up the traps, you'll obviously release storage, and it gets rid of the quicksand that I'm getting using this storage right now. And the tricky part with this too, especially with the traps there, is you can usually only do it when the first trap is extended. That's why I'm sort of waiting for it. If you try and do it when it's retracted, then usually you don't get the correct animation to give you quicksand. So you just need to keep trying. But so yeah, that's why I'm like waiting. And I do 8 of these for safety. You shouldn't do more. You might think like, why don't you just be like super safe and do like 10 instead of 7 to make sure you're low enough. But you can actually go too low. If I do like 10, then I'll be too low and I don't get under the fence for whatever reason. You'll still get under this door, but you don't get under the fence. Or the gate, whatever this thing is called. And again here, I'm taking a specific path that I found safest, so it doesn't randomly push me out of quicksand. So this is the second chariot, second auto-scroller. Nothing you can do to speed this up. I guess I'll talk about more about storage. You might be thinking like, okay, you just use that to get quicksand, cool. Nice trick, but that's not the main use for it. That's just like the bonus use. The main use for it is coming up, not for another while. So, but every time we rewind it, I still have it, obviously, because you were seeing me continuously teleporting. So I still have ledge storage, and I'll continuously have to avoid automatically climbing up onto something and vaulting over fences. Because I want to maintain that ledge storage state up until like after the elevator section. Luckily, it doesn't go away. It does go away if you die, though. So, yeah. Runs in this area are a little tricky because you can't die. So, I mean, like, there's certain points where if you do die, you could save it if you close the menu quickly enough. And then you would just continue having a very close checkpoint, so it's not that big a deal. But since we do this ledge storage technique now, any death is essentially run over. Unless you're like minutes ahead, then I guess you could take the time loss, but yeah. Alright, auto scroller done. This is another one of the few bosses where we actually have to fight. And it's also similar to Clumpa. You could skip this boss, but it would involve doing 3 rewind tricks, I believe, and it is obviously not RTA viable to go for. And I honestly don't even know if it's possible, because you would have to wait for regeneration on your sword, because you need 6 sand. This fight went awful too. I came pretty close to dying. The optimal way to do this fight is just to get like 2 charged attacks and 1 normal attack on both phases, and then you can start the speed kills. I had trouble with the sword dude kind of trolling me here. Almost got that hit, but he killed me again. There, finally got it. Very important. I really didn't want to die there because I could like just die and take the time loss, but I would lose ledge storage. I would also lose the sword, so it would essentially ruin the whole run. Oh yeah, I lied. I forgot about this very short Dark Prince section. Usually it's much longer, but we don't want to do this fight, so what you're supposed to do is stay in this room and kill all the enemies. There's quite a lot of them, and then the door opens and you can continue. But what we can do instead is just go over to this wall, do another one of those wall run flips to gain some height. And it always flips you to the left. I don't think I mentioned that, but it always flips you over to the left. That's why you need to do it on the left side. You can't do it on the right side. Yeah, we can just get right over that room. And that's the end of that Dark Prince section. And that should be the last one. Unless you count the cutscene. But anyway. So again, I'm avoiding climbing up a ledge here, so I need to kind of do that weird jump to keep ledge storage. And same thing, I'm doing some quicksand here, which this would get rid of ledge storage, but since I'm rewinding, I still have it. So I get 2 quicksand here, which is very convenient. It just goes right under a cutscene that's there, skipping it. think it's the only cutscene besides the one we do with full quicksand, which is doing 7 of those ledge rewinds. But that cutscene, for whatever reason, doesn't extend underground hardly at all, so you can just get 2 and roll right under. This elevator skip is, this elevator section is really quick in like every category. Obviously it's the quickest in any percent normal with zipping, but even in NMG you can still do this strat because you're not using any glitches, you're just slowing down time, and you can catch this elevator before it gets to where it's supposed to be, and then just vault up the elevator shaft until you hit the cutscene. It's a really cool skip. I would shout out who found it, but I actually don't remember. I don't want to just like say the wrong person, so sorry about that, but yeah, whoever found it, you're really cool. Yeah, I gained like another like 30 seconds on that split. Going really strong with our time here. As you see, like the record I have when I was doing this is 127, and now it's 124, so I did a pretty big jump. So there's some enemies here, and we lost the sword because of the Dark Prince section, so we need to worry about sand management again. And the way I'm going to end up doing this is actually refunding a sand. So I sort of get in the right position, I activate slow-mo so the enemies stay away from me and don't attack me. And then I'm going to break this vase to release the sand, and then wait for it to start aggroing onto me and then do my jump. But I'm not going to buffer the rewind yet. I'm going to wait until the sand is collected and then rewind. So then I rewind obtaining the sand, and then I get it refunded. So you see I have 2 sand instead of 1, which is very nice because it allows us to do this next area faster. Because I need to do a slow-mo boost off of this hanging platform here, and I need 2 sands to do that, so that works out very nicely. There is a backup if you only have 1 sand, but it's like a really tricky drop glitch that's next to a cutscene, and it's kind of obnoxious. This is also very obnoxious. These friggin' enemies piss me off. I'm trying to get a sand here, which I eventually get. I don't like need it, but I probably would have wasted like the same amount of time if I didn't have it, because I want to get a red guard sword again to have my sands regenerated. And having a slow-mo makes it much easier to obtain it. If I didn't have it, 3 of these enemies would start attacking me, and it's not very fun. So we got the sand sword back. Now we essentially have infinite sands again, and then we can just boost up here and continue on. You need to, that's kind of weird movement. It's like the only time you ever do that, like land on top of a pole, but it's needed because of that panel that's not closed like it normally would be, so you can't just swing off of it. If you try, it just kind of pushes you down, kills you. Alright, so remember that funky glitch we got like 15 minutes ago? We're gonna use it for its biggest purpose here. We're gonna go over here, and actually wall run to hit a load trigger, which loads the well that's beneath us. So you see that area behind us is black now. And then walk towards this to activate the ledge storage, and it magically teleports us below a death plane here. That's why we can't just drop glitch down here, because there's a death plane. But doing that gets below the death plane. And then what I can do here is I'll do it again here. That went by really fast, but it is a drop glitch, but it's a variation of a drop glitch that we call an epic drop glitch because of the guy that found it. He has the screen name Epic Dude Guy. If you let this play through first. I ended up saving that with a rewind trick because I messed it up. But so if you do a drop glitch and then activate and deactivate slow-mo very quickly, all in very quick succession, then you can get a much further drop than you normally would. So, and both of those drop glitch require an epic drop glitch. So that's a really tricky part of the run, especially the first one, because you can't hang off that platform because it's just like an out of bounds platform that you would normally never stand on outside of a cutscene. So you can't hang off it, which makes it harder because you need to time it as you walk to it instead of doing the usual setup. But yeah, after I got that, I was really psyched because, like, if I'm not dumb, getting this PB/world record is free. Also, that boost is really cool because it's another instance where smashing the prince into some collision conveniently pushes him onto something that we need to go to. I did another little roll teleport there. All that did was just skip the trap trigger, so all these traps are not activated, which is not really needed, but it's much easier to do these boosts with the traps deactivated. So, and we get to watch this cutscene with the prince. Like, you're supposed to be the Dark Prince here, so the cutscene is like fucked up. It's like half Dark Prince, half normal. And you imagine you could skip this. You could do another wall run teleport to skip this, but there are these breakable walls that we need our dad's sword to break. So if you ended up skipping this cutscene, you wouldn't have this sword, and so you would need to do quicksand to get past them. And I did the timing for it, and it's slower to skip this cutscene and do the quicksand, so we just have to watch this cutscene. And unfortunately that means we need to go back to sand management because we no longer have the Redguard sword. Right here, this is a really funny part of the cutscene too. You can't hear it because I have the audio off, obviously, but the prince is still talking, but his mouth doesn't move because it's glitched out with the textures. But yeah, let me continue on your way. And this is the first wall that we would have to skip with quicksand if we skipped the cutscene. Other shoutouts to NMG here. You could skip this area in like 3 different ways. One of them I think is harder. Another one requires sand, and we want to keep all 4 sand, and that way I just did doesn't use any sand, and it's really easy in my opinion, so that's the one I opt for. I have 4 sand, and we're going to use it for 2 specific boosts. That one and this one here. There's another one you could do if you had more sand. After I do this one, I could just like turn around on the back wall and do a jump boost up this area, but that one saves more time than the jump boost, so we do that one. And we just do this area casually. This is the second wall you would have to quicksand through if we skip the cutscene. And then what you could do is death abuse, and you would get your dad's sword back. But again, I timed it, and it's slower to do that, unfortunately, so yeah. even with the extra boost that you can do. That boost is kind of cool just because of the setup to get on that wall. If you just try and jump to it, you're not going to have enough height. This one is also cool. A lot of cool boosts in the late game, but they're scary because you don't have infinite sands, which is, you might be noticing I'm waiting longer in the menu, which I mentioned earlier. I do that on purpose because just to make them safer. I opt to get rid of the menu here, even though it wastes a bit of time, but I gotta go through these traps, and there's also some tricky movement up ahead that would be a little, not too bad, but it would be a little annoying to try and do it with the menu open. It's mainly for those traps, if I'm being honest. Those traps scare me a little bit. So here, I activate slow-mo and go to this corner and sort of wall run in the corner, and I messed up the first time because I didn't get enough height, but I got it the second time. You just need to get a maximum wall run, and then you can reach up to that platform, which is actually the second way that was found to skip this area. There's another way, but it would be, I think it's a bit slower, because you have to do some small backtracking, but yeah. They're both just as easy. That area is kind of a joke. Yeah, I took this like really safe after I messed up that trick the first time, because I need this one sand that I have for a boost that saves a lot of time. So this is the start of the so-called towers in the late game here. And I want to do a jump boost, and I need 2 sand, so I get 1 more from this enemy. We can line up, being pretty careful with the lineup here, because again, we only have 2 sand. If I mess this up, I would have to death abuse, and it would waste a lot of time. Luckily, I got it first try. I boosted right up to that platform. And this was a mistake. I shouldn't have triggered the traps and then turned around, because they can be quite finicky to get through if you don't go right away, but I got it no problem, so worked out. Just filling up sand here. You might have noticed I burned a sand, and don't think I mentioned this, but if you have 0 or 1 sand, every furniture item will guarantee have a sand inside. But if you have 2 or more, there's a % chance. So if you want to fill up on sand, just like have 1 sand in your inventory and then break the 3 furniture items and you're good to go. Another boost, another tower boost here. There's a teleport you could do right on this dagger panel, which would save, I think, like 7, maybe 8 seconds. But it's really finicky, and I could never, like, every time I try to do it in runs, it doesn't work out, so I just didn't even try. But it would boost you right over to the platform, and it would also skip the load trigger for these traps, so you could just go immediately instead of waiting. Coming up on the last boost, first we gotta do this impossible wall run that's on a curved wall. The game's trying to be really fancy, but that's like physically impossible. And what's funny is sometimes the game just makes you fall off the wall. And it's really dumb. Again, I burned the sand because I'm gonna fill up again here. And I could have filled up on the first platform we got to, but I opt to fill up here because doing this little wait time as I wait for the sand times these platforms perfectly, where I can just do one swing and then jump off, and I'll always make it over here without falling off because of these retractable ledges that you're climbing on. Other shoutouts to NMG there. And before, like, there are other skips I could have done. I could have did like a wall run extend earlier to speed up that section, but I did the timing, and I need 4 sand coming into this area, and there is an artwork I could get that would fill my sand up to 4, but it's faster to maintain these 4 sand and just go straight to the button and continue on. So that's what I do. So last 2 boosts of the run, do this one just to avoid waiting for the elevator. So you might think we're gonna fight this boss, but we're not. We have to start the boss fight, but then we can immediately roll back here, go to this second grass patch, do a jump boost, and there's actually a teleport trigger in the air that would normally get triggered when you end the fight, but if you just get there, then the game just loads in the final area, the mental room. So that's pretty much the run. We're just on the last stretch here. We lose the dagger, we can't rewind. The menu goes away automatically because this is like a load and not just like a how can I explain this? Like, it's not just a teleport within the game, it's like a separate load trigger. So the menu goes away, and it acts sort of the same way if you die. So if I try to pause here, I'll soft lock. So I'm actually being careful not to pause because I have the pause menu bounded to my scroll wheel, so I can easily get the menu glitch. So I'm just like, it's not like something I would ever do, but I'm always conscious of it because if I just roll that wheel by accident, if I just slip my finger, then soft lock. The game would just give that sand fog background, but it wouldn't have the menu options there, and you would just be stuck. Yeah, there's actually a couple skips in this mental room, but I think you would only really save time with them if you could do it in a task setting, which is tool-assisted speedrun if you don't know. Doing it like frame by frame and fixing mistakes. There's a couple, like the slow-mo sections, you can actually do some tricky jumps to skip them. And same thing with this final slow-mo section here. You could do a glitch that I didn't mention at all because we don't actually use it. It's used in NMG, but it's considered a minor glitch, so it's fair game. You could do, it's called 360 beam glitch on that last beam there, and actually jump around trigger and fall right down to this area. But it's A, hard to save time with because you do it very fast, and I don't even know if it saves time if you do it fast. But it's also precise. Like if you aim it too far to the right, you'll just game over, or you could like miss the load and then you have to just jump again and do it normally. But yeah, this is the end of the run. Side rolling up some stairs, and time is right when it fades to white, and we end up with a 1:24:34, which is pretty solid, I think, at least for the level of optimization I did with my strats. And it could have been like those two cutscenes, the one by slow-mo and also the one where I just walked into accidentally. Those two cutscenes are big time savers, so this run is by no means perfect, but it's a decent enough run where I'm not gonna do a run of this for another little while, so figured I'd do some commentary like this. So hope you enjoyed, and if you want to learn more about Prince of Persia speedrunning, check out speedrun.com, and there's tons of resources there. And yeah, thanks for watching.